welcome back to Oh My God. I'm your host, Beau Bradley. My pronouns are he and they. Before we get into today's episode, I want to thank you all for allowing me to take the past month off from podcasting and stacking some hours for planning and collaborating and other types of fun things that you will see soon, hopefully. So this year has been a hell of a year so far, and we need to all remember to work at our own paces and with our own energy levels and just be mindful of what you need in yourself. So last time on Oh My God, we hung out with Seattle-based singer and songwriter Jeannie Rack. We had such a great time talking about music, our childhoods, being queer, taking up space, how Jeannie became a musician after working as a public school teacher, and so much more. You can find that on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find it on YouTube. We now have 3 video podcast episodes, including today's, so be sure to check out today's episode on YouTube. If you're more of a visual person, or if you just want to feel like you're hanging out with us as we talk, it's a great way to do that. Which brings me to today's all-new episode, which I'm sure you all know I'm very excited about, per usual. Today, we're sitting down with some of the creative minds behind August, a period company founded on the principles of sustainability, impact, and inclusivity. Today, we're really lucky to have 3 of the incredible humans who have been instrumental in the conversation surrounding accessible and sustainable periods, and I'm really excited for you to get to know them. And before we get there, so why are we talking about it on here? I think that a lot of people don't realize that not only women have periods, and I don't think there's a lot of general period and menstruation education out there. And I think that this company and this organization is doing such a great big thing, and the people are all great. And this is a project I've been involved with for a little bit now, and I am very excited to share it with you all. So without further ado, let's welcome Chesley, Claudia, and Max, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Here we go.
I can go first. Hi,
Oh,
everyone.
okay.
My name is Chesley. I am an August community lead. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a proud menstruator, and I'm a big fan of Oh My God and have been for a while now.
I guess I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Max. I'm an August community lead, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm a trans masculine, non binary person, and I'm super passionate about creating gender inclusive period spaces, and very excited to be here today.
Well, I guess it's my turn now. Hi, my name is Claudia. I use she, her pronouns. I'm super passionate about starting conversations that matter, especially with periods now with August. And I'm a community lead here, so I'm excited to chat about it.
That's awesome. So the first thing I want to talk about with you all is just kind of like August. And for those who don't know what it is, because we all do, if you could speak to what it is a little bit and how it came about.
Yeah, I can take that. And Max and Claudia, feel free to chime in and add anything that I've missed. Um, but August overall, we like to call ourselves a lifestyle brand just because I think when you think about menstruation, it's not just, the act itself, it does kind of bleed into, no pun intended. It does bleed into your other, your everyday life because I mean, your menstrual cycle lasts all month, right? So it's not just that week. But August, for starters, means dignified, respected, and impressive. And as a team, we kind of, looked at the period space and was like, these adjectives are all missing in the period space right now. It is not dignified. You don't feel respected, and you definitely do not feel impressive when you're on your period. And at August, we do hope to return dignity to such a natural and powerful process because it is, right? Periods do make human life possible, and we do forget about that all the time. And yeah, that was the shirt. And yeah, we hope to help menstruators around the entire world to really unlock their full potential throughout the month and every month by operating under our values of inclusion, shamelessness, transparency, and care. And we like to think of our audience as Gen Z, but obviously not only Gen Z menstruates, but I feel like a lot of our values resonate a lot with this generation. We are the next generation of leaders and already are. But yeah, we are for menstruators, by menstruators of all different backgrounds. That's us.
I love that. I think it's really cool too that it's like very palpable that community is a big part of August. like from the beginning, anything I ever saw from like the branding and things before I even knew about the inner cycle, it was just like, we're building a community. And it just, personally for me, I know community is like a big thing. So I feel like anytime you start a movement, that's a very Gen Z thing too, I think, just having a collaborative space, you can just go so much further. And so the community that August is building is the inner cycle.
So August is our like facing like to the world brand, right? And then like products and things. But the inner cycle is like our like family community. So we have conversations like every week, events sort of thing that are inner cycle based on Geneva. And then those events we obviously will publicize to the rest of the world if they want to join, but it makes it more of like a close-knit type of environment too.
For sure.
So the inner cycle is the whole community is on Geneva, right? And then we do have an Instagram page, which is the Flow, which we use to kind of intersect August, our main page, it's August, and our inner cycle into one, and give the community a space to all like get to know each other, to follow each other, and to just keep in touch off of Geneva. But Geneva is like the main platform where we really like start to foster all of these relationships, and actually is where we have the conversations and most of the events.
I love that. And there's all different kinds of events too that encourage different kinds of things. Like there's yoga and there's live chat events, which are really cool. Honestly, I didn't even know what live chatting was until the inner cycle. So thanks for that. Just a little old millennial. But seriously, it's like, it's so cool. There's so many different ways that you take events and incorporate them, whether it's just voice chat, live chat, physically being somewhere, zooming on something. I feel like there's just so many different opportunities for connection.
Yeah, for sure. We also have our August medical board come in sometimes to offer, certified feedback. I mean, the three of us, we are menstruators, but we only know so much from our own experiences. So it's definitely very helpful to be able to talk to these very experienced and educated in this world of medical care and just proper practices. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so one of the things, when going back to like the dignified, respected, and impressive, one of the things that you all have been working towards as well is destigmatizing periods and kind of making them more approachable for the general public to talk about and discuss. And I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think creating space where, the core reason why the space is, available is because you want to, break these stigmas is alone such a powerful process, right? Because people already know, like, okay, like this is where I can talk about these things unapologetically and ask questions where I wouldn't feel ashamed. Personally, like growing up, I didn't really have a space like this, and I really wish I did because I had so many questions but didn't know where to turn. And I feel lucky because I do have a lot of cousins who are menstruators, but not everyone has that, right? So it's kind of like you go on the inner cycle and it's like, okay, I might not have cousins who are menstruators, but now I have over 1,000 people that I can ask. And obviously not all of them menstruate, but just knowing that they are there to support you is such a powerful and empowering feeling. And I feel like that as a 21-year-old. So I hope that someone who's 13, 15 feel the same way, and are taking advantage of it. And I think they are, because I think one of my favorite rooms on Geneva is the Ask August room, which is kind of a nod to our Ask August platform, which is a database of all the questions that you would ask as a menstruator, whether that's about your period, your body, about sex, anything like that. But that room, you ask questions and people, kind of crowdsource all those answers for you. Like, oh, I don't know if this is like a fact, but like this is what I experienced, so maybe it will help you out. And sometimes we do have our medical board answer some of those questions during live chat. I try to kind of redirect them. But yeah, I think we also have a really cool tradition that we're trying to start, tradition/ritual, which is adding a little blood drop next to your name when you're on your period. Claudia or Max, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so when you're on your period, you just add a little blood drop emoji next to your name. And I think it kind of builds solidarity. And it's really cool to see just a huge list of names, like when scrolling through conversations and being like, wow, like we're all on our period at the same time and we're unapologetic about it, right? I think that's like kind of something that really stuck out to me about the inner cycle and like August as a whole, and the content on Instagram and even conversations in community is being bold and unapologetic about talking about this and about telling the world that you're on your period. Like even like through the drop of blood, it's something small, but it's like, hi, I'm here, I'm menstruating, and like I'm here to let everybody know because we're tired of having to hide this and like being ashamed of it. So this is just like, it might be really small, but it's at least a little step into being unafraid to share and talk about it.
Definitely. And I like how you said that it like seeing all the names, because I think that's it, just like it builds that solidarity, you're right, and it makes it feel almost so much more approachable. Because like even myself, it's funny that we're having this conversation now because this is the year that I like stopped menstruating thanks to testosterone, but I have for 30 years of my life, and it's something that just like I feel like over the past year talking with you all, I've learned so much more about it, and reading Nadia's book, and it's just like there's so much I think that I didn't realize. And even the last conversation we had, how many people just feel unprepared and just don't have a basic level of this is what to expect. And I think it's amazing that it's taken this long to be able to talk about, like you said, boldly, proudly talk about periods. Yeah.
I think so too. It's like, at least for me, like I never had a community where I could boldly talk about it, right? And then, like you said, being on testosterone, it adds a whole other element to it too. And it's like, okay, am I allowed in this space because I look a certain way? I still menstruate, but am I okay? And I think that was one of the things too for me joining the inner cycle was I belong here. Like I exist in this space too. Menstruating isn't just for women, right? So that was the thing that hooked me, at least, and like tugged at my heartstrings to be like, hey, these people are here for me too, and I can have voice, and I'm not gonna get shamed as being masculine and told to get out, kind of thing. And I've built a family over the internet, and it's amazing.
That's awesome. And you just mentioned it, but I want to talk to you about the inclusivity, because the Inner Cycle in August, I know we've talked about as a brand is inclusive, but from the beginning of building the community, you all have worked very hard to make sure that the community itself is inclusive. And I think that's really important.
Yes, I'll speak to that too. Yeah, I mean, I joined the Inner Cycle as just a regular member back in, I think, like October of last year. I was on a leave of absence from my part-time job, like a medical leave, and I had a lot of free time. So I joined the Inner Cycle through Schuyler Bailar, like plugging it on his stories. And I went to town. I, started conversations, was like, hey, I'm like, I saw this, like, this is cool. Like, let's make friendships and connections and stuff. And it ended up landing me a job. I talked so much, they wanted me to talk for money, but um, it, it was kind of like, I just knew, just I guess by Schuyler plugging it, I was like, okay, if Schuyler's plugging it, they must know what they're talking about, right? They must be a safe place. And there was not a second that I felt unsafe, which is rare, as you probably know. So for me to go on the internet and find a place where I didn't like shy away from any conversation was amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think so. The first thing I noticed along those lines was that pronouns are mandatory. Like everyone next to their name in the platform has their pronouns. And then also, you all have worked with Schuyler to create a gender inclusivity guide.
Yes.
Yeah.
and we plug it every chance we get. We've been getting a steady increase in members recently, and it's a very consistent plugging. And we just had our second round of Gender Inclusivity trivia night. So we did like a bunch of polls of like what you learned over the last couple of weeks, with us plugging like graphics of terms and facts about inclusivity. So it's basic. It was kind of like a little test to see what you've learned, right? But also a fun way to like reinstate the idea that we are an inclusive community, and these are things that we will not budge on, and to create and continue to create a safe base for everyone.
I think the inclusivity guide also enforces like one of our core pillars as a community, and like just also as a brand, which is education and making education accessible, right? Like not just about periods, but to be able to like give people from all areas of the world, because the inner cycle is international. Like I don't know if we even mentioned that, but we have people from everywhere, and to be able to provide access to like terms and definitions that makes sense and are easy to understand for everyone is something that I think is just like so important. And we're all so passionate about, to just like have the privilege to be able to deliver this information and content for free, and to get people engaged in wanting to learn about this information, right? And wanting to be more inclusive, like with the trivia nights we do, and just like trying to do Fact Fridays and Term Tuesdays, which Max came up with, is a great way to just get everyone excited about like wanting to be inclusive and learning about it.
I think too, to add on to the education part, it's not just education, but a judgment-free zone for education, because a lot of people I've noticed, they want to learn, but they're afraid of being judged for not knowing. So that's been like a little project of mine to like bleed into, pun intended, bleed into the inner cycle. Is it's okay to ask questions, like as long as your intent is to not harm the person you're asking the question to. Mm-hmm. It's okay. And like I can tell when someone's intention is wrong, right? So if you're just curious and you want to learn, like I'm all for it, and I will spend every waking moment I can trying to help you. So I think that's the difference too, is like giving them the space to ask questions, giving them like the tools that they need to ask questions, being there for them, just supporting them, has really been a great thing to be a part of and witness.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And to kind of add on to this before we move on, I think it's also helpful to kind of step back and like, try to look at the inner cycle from a different perspective, because I can also see how someone who is a bit more conservative would like come onto the platform and be like, this is not the place for me. Like this is, I know that the word woke has a lot of meanings at this point, but like that can also be perceived negatively, right? And that's definitely something we don't want. I think if we remove all of these, convoluted terms, I think it's important to recognize that we are just people trying to make the world a better place and be there for each other. Like that is why we're here, not for any other reason, right? And kind of echoing what Max said earlier, we want to be very welcoming of those who may not necessarily know how to or feel confident at practicing inclusivity, but are eager to learn. Because even though all of us here, want the world to be a more inclusive space and want to be part of that mission, we are all still learning. So I think just kind of grounding ourselves in that fact is helpful for us, and also reminding those who come in and feel a bit out of place, because they might not resonate with every single of our values. That's okay. And I think we're still working on that. Yeah, I just wanted to add that little piece.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, of like everyone has a different opinion. Everyone has a different life experience. Like you said, 20 plus countries of different lives that are being led through the inner cycle. So we're not going to be the same. We're not going to have the same opinions. We're not going to have the same mindset, but being respectful is what it comes down to, and saying, I hear you, I respect you, but I don't agree. And I think that's the difference that needs to be made.
Definitely.
Did we touch on menstruators instead of women?
Yeah, that's like pretty important. We kind of like that's just what we live by at this point, that we don't even like think about it as. Do you want to take that one, Max or Claudia?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, just coming onto the inner cycle again, like as a member first, it was the first time where the term menstruators was even introduced to me, right? And like just being part of this community for so long, I find that I don't even use the term like women anymore in just like day-to-day conversations when talking about periods. Because at this point, it's just like become like second nature. Like, yeah, this is the way it should be, right? This is the word we should be using. And I think that's just kind of like what we're aiming to do, like to just reframe the way people imagine periods and think about periods and talk about it. And again, like part of trying to be more inclusive individually and as a community, just something as small as replacing the term women with menstruators is something that allows everyone to be part of the conversation, you know, like not just one group of people, which is like super important.
Definitely.
It's such a small thing too that just makes everyone feel included. You know, it doesn't take more than like a couple days, really. Like once you get into the inner cycle, it's like this is my life now. We're talking menstruators instead of women. Like that's okay. And then you end up saying it to people on the street or like at work, or and then it starts a conversation elsewhere. And then you teach someone something in your personal life that you learned, and it just like ripples out.
Powerful.
Yeah. I think one way to kind of look at how, I mean, the word menstruator, we didn't invent it, right? But it's still not recognized as a real word by spell check. Like if you type it out through text or anywhere, it still has that red squiggly under it. So we still have a long way to go. I mean, it's not recognized as a real word, but menstruators exist. So
yeah, that's so interesting. Let's see, like how people that are listening could be more inclusive in the period space, or how they can, like, I guess how we can tie this into like an action item more so.
Step 1, join the inner cycle. Step 2, replace any use of the word women when talking about menstruation and use menstruator instead to be more gender inclusive.
Beautiful. What is
Welcome
the
to my
most
life.
unexpected thing you've gotten out of the inner cycle or out of being a part of this group?
I feel like there's so many little moments that like when you encounter them day to day, it's just like, oh, this is cute or wholesome or whatever. But when you look at it in like the bigger scheme of things, is really valuable, right? Like something that just has always stuck with me and my mind goes straight to this is we have a member located in India, and he's not a menstruator at all, but he's like still a super active member in the community. And it's about the gender inclusivity guide. And he was like, yeah, I've never heard these terms in my life. Like, we don't talk about this here, but I'm learning so much from it. And I've been sharing it with people I know. And I'm like, this is where we really see how we're actually making a difference. You know, like it might sound small in our day-to-day activities, but like just the fact that somebody in a whole other continent across the world was like, yeah, you brought me something valuable and I'm bringing that to other people now.
That's so cool.
I mean, I'll attest to the community part of it. Like as a trans person, community means so much to me. So I found my chosen family over the internet, and even though I haven't met any of these people in real life, I talk to them every day, and I feel safe and appreciated and loved in a way that I've hardly ever found anywhere else.
I love that. I know I like don't even know how to follow that. That's so, like, it's so important though. I think the support that has grown between individuals in the community, like it's palpable. It's yeah.
And like, not even to talk about me, but I know that so many other people too have made connections separate from the August team.
Yeah.
Like, people have met, like, I know our middle school lead has made a friend in the Netherlands, you know, like, complete separate places, but they like talk on FaceTime and, you know, have like little hangouts. And it's so great to hear too, of like making these connections. And like, almost like, I know I've made lifelong friends, and I know that everyone else has that capability too. So that's for me like the biggest point that I have for the inner cycle is family.
Yeah, just to add on to that, what I think is like most amazing, like even with these like friendships between members that are formed, is that they all were created because we all came to this space because we were like, yeah, it's time we talk about periods. And now like it's grown to so much more than that, but just the fact that like like the common denominator, if I should say, here is that like we all came here because we believe that we need to start talking about periods and that we shouldn't be ashamed to talk about them. And just our common experience of having a period or knowing somebody who has a period has like built so many more valuable things and has built so many connections just off of like one simple like part of life, honestly.
Yeah.
Periods make human life possible.
And I kind of really quickly want to contrast this with how periods for so long have been treated, right? I think we held a lot of conversations about this at the beginning of the inner cycle, and I think it's time we bring it back because we have a lot of new members. But periods, instead of bringing people together, it has for so long shunned people from attending like a mosque or like a temple because they're on their period, or like not even being able to talk about it with their male quote unquote male family members. So it's just like to think about how we've completely turned that on its head and have been able to foster these relationships, these completely virtual relationships across the entire world, is so wild to think about. I'm very proud of us. All of us did that.
You should be super proud. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can take that. So we do have an invite link, and I will send that to you, Beau. And we also have kind of for prospective inner cycle members, like what is the inner cycle, kind of like one pager. So you can kind of see, okay, this is what we do. This was when we were founded. Where are we located? All that good stuff. Also with the link, but I can send that as a separate link for you. Another way that you can find it is, going to our website. It's august.co. And on the menu bar on the left, you'll see #InnerCycle. If you click on that, that's also another way to get there. And I think those are, those two ways are pretty much the easiest ways to get there. I think it would also be helpful, Beau, if we send you the link. You probably have this already, but the link to our gender inclusivity guide, if anyone is like curious to know exactly how August is committed, we do have some action steps there that we are pursuing.
Awesome.
We also have social media platforms at It's August, at The Flow, and at Ask August.
And across a lot of platforms, right? Like Instagram, TikTok.
It's August Co for TikTok. It's August for Instagram.
I did forget one thing I wanted to ask is what's next for the inner cycle or August, or what? Like, is there anything that you want to like? If not, that's okay too.
Big things are happening.
Well, that's exciting. That works.
I think one thing we can say is that we do have a product launch coming out in a few weeks, and I think that's all I can say so far.
Yeah.
And I guess we can caveat this with, if you are an inner cycle member, you do get a few perks, But that's all I'll say.
So stay tuned. Good things to follow. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to hang out with me and chat about August and the inner cycle today.
Thank you. This was so lovely.
This was really fun.
Thank you all for tuning in this week. I hope that you learned a little bit about menstruation and about August and the inner cycle. And so you all know, I am a proud member of the inner cycle, and Rose is too. And we both really enjoy the community, the education, the conversations, really everything about August and the inner cycle. So I highly recommend you check them out. Their website is itsaugust.co. You can also find them on Instagram at It's August, on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, and Pinterest at It's August Co. And they are on YouTube as well. The links to the August Period Inclusivity Guide with Schuyler Bailar and the invite to join the Inner Cycle will all be in the episode bio below for you all to access and check out. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and follow. I'm Beau Bradley. Thanks for listening to Beau My God. We'll catch you next time.